Marcus Thompson was a man with big dreams, but life had other plans for him. He lived in a tiny apartment on the outskirts of town with his wife, Jasmine. They were once so deeply in love that nothing seemed impossible. But as time went by, reality began to weigh heavily on Marcus. The bills piled up faster than they could pay them off, and the small jobs he worked barely kept food on the table. Every day felt like a battle, against money, against time, and sometimes even against each other. Jasmine tried her best to stay positive. She cooked meals on a tight budget, mended their clothes when they tore, and always reminded Marcus that things would get better if they stuck together. But no matter how hard she tried, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that he was drowning. His dreams of success seemed further away than ever, and the constant stress made him irritable. Arguments became more frequent, often sparked by something as simple as an unpaid electricity bill or a missed opportunity at work. One evening, after yet another heated argument, Marcus sat alone in the dim light of their living room. Jasmine had gone to bed, exhausted from both the fight and the weight of holding everything together. Marcus stared at the cracked walls of their apartment, feeling trapped. He thought about all the things he wanted: to provide for his family, to live without worrying about tomorrow, but none of it felt possible anymore. The pressure was suffocating, and for the first time, he wondered if leaving might be the answer. The idea scared him, but it also offered a strange kind of relief. What if walking away gave him the space he needed to figure things out, to breathe again? The guilt gnawed at him, but so did the frustration. By morning, Marcus had made up his mind. Quietly, he packed a small bag with clothes and a few essentials. He scribbled a short note, "I need space," and left it on the kitchen counter where Jasmine would find it. Then, before he could change his mind, he walked out the door. As he drove away, Marcus felt a mix of emotions. There was sadness, of course, but also a fleeting sense of freedom. He told himself this wasn't forever, it was just temporary. He'd come back when he had his life sorted out, when he could finally give Jasmine the future she deserved. But deep down, he knew it wasn't that simple. Walking away wouldn't magically solve anything. Still, Marcus convinced himself it was the only way forward. What Marcus didn't know, and what Jasmine discovered weeks later, was that she was pregnant. Not just with one child, but with quadruplets. 4 babies growing inside her, each one carrying half of Marcus's DNA. When Jasmine found out, she cried, not just because of the overwhelming responsibility ahead, but because the man who should have been there to share the news was long gone. She was alone now, facing the biggest challenge of her life, without the person she thought would always stand by her side. And though Marcus had promised himself he'd return stronger and wiser, neither of them could have guessed how much their lives were about to change, or how fate would bring them face to face again years later. After leaving Jasmine, Marcus moved to a new city hoping for a fresh start. He found a job at a construction site, working long hours under the scorching sun. The physical labor was exhausting, but it kept his mind busy and gave him a sense of purpose, or so he told himself. At night, when the world grew quiet and there was nothing but the hum of distant traffic, Marcus would lie awake thinking about Jasmine. He wondered if she hated him, if she was doing okay without him. But mostly, he wondered if leaving had been the right decision. The guilt never fully disappeared. It lingered in the background like a shadow, creeping into his thoughts whenever he least expected it. Sometimes, Marcus picked up his phone, scrolling through old pictures of him and Jasmine. They looked so happy back then, laughing on picnics, dancing awkwardly at family gatherings, holding hands as they strolled through the park. Those memories felt like they belonged to someone else now, not the man sitting alone in a cramped studio apartment with takeout containers scattered across the table. One day, while grabbing coffee during his lunch break, Marcus met Elena. She worked at a nearby boutique and struck up a conversation with him when he complimented her earrings. Elena was kind, easygoing, and different from anyone Marcus had ever known. Over time, they started seeing each other regularly. She introduced him to art galleries, poetry readings, and little cafes tucked away in hidden corners of the city. For the first time in years, Marcus felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe this was his chance to build something new, a life where he wasn't constantly looking over his shoulder at the past. But no matter how much Marcus tried to move forward, Jasmine's face haunted him. He often thought about reaching out, just to check on her, but fear held him back. What if she didn't want anything to do with him? What if she told him he'd ruined her life? So instead, he stayed silent, burying those thoughts deep inside. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, Jasmine faced challenges Marcus couldn't even imagine. When she discovered she was carrying quadruplets, panic set in. How could she possibly raise 4 babies on her own? Her family rallied around her, offering support in every way they could. Friends pitched in too, organizing fundraisers and dropping off meals. Slowly but surely, Jasmine built a network of people who believed in her strength, even when she struggled to believe in herself. The pregnancy wasn't easy. Jasmine dealt with morning sickness that lasted all day, swollen feet that made walking painful, and sleepless nights filled with worry. Yet despite everything, she refused to give up. She talked to her unborn babies every night, telling them stories about their future. "You're going to be fighters," she whispered, rubbing her belly, "just like your mama." When the quadruplets were born, 2 boys and 2 girls, Jasmine's heart swelled with love. Amari, Nia, Malik, and Zara were tiny miracles wrapped in soft blankets. They were perfect in every way, and Jasmine vowed to give them the best life possible, no matter what it took. She decorated their nursery with second-hand furniture painted bright colors, sang lullabies late into the night, and learned quickly how to juggle feedings, diaper changes, and nap schedules. As the months passed, Jasmine realized something important. She didn't need Marcus to make things work. She had become stronger than she ever thought possible, capable of handling whatever came her way. Still, there were moments when she allowed herself to wonder where he was and whether he ever thought about them. Did he know about the quadruplets? Would he care if he did? Back in the city, Marcus continued building his life with Alina. On the surface, things seemed fine. He had a steady job, a girlfriend who cared about him, and a routine that kept him grounded. But beneath the calm exterior, questions lingered. Who was he now? Was he still the same man who had walked out on Jasmine, or had he changed enough to deserve forgiveness? And most importantly, what kind of legacy did he want to leave behind? Little did Marcus know, fate had plans to answer those questions sooner than he expected. Somewhere down the road, his 2 worlds, one he had abandoned and one he was trying to create, would collide in ways he couldn't anticipate. Until then, Marcus kept moving forward, clinging to the hope that maybe, just maybe, he could find redemption someday. Years went by, and Marcus settled into his new life. He had grown more comfortable in the city, finding a rhythm that felt almost normal. His relationship with Elena had its ups and downs, but she remained a steady presence, a reminder of the person he was trying to become. Yet, no matter how much Marcus tried to focus on the present, there were moments when the past would creep back in. Late at night, lying awake, he'd think about Jasmine. Was she happy? Had she moved on? Did she hate him for leaving? Those questions lingered unanswered, buried under layers of guilt and regret. One day, Marcus decided to attend a national rally organized by the Black Lives Matter movement. The event was being held downtown, drawing thousands of people from all walks of life. Marcus had always been aware of racial injustice. It was something he'd seen and experienced firsthand. But lately, he felt compelled to do more than just observe. He wanted to stand up, speak out, and make a difference. It wasn't just about making amends for his mistakes anymore. It was about creating a better future for everyone who looked like him. The rally buzzed with energy. People carried signs with bold messages. Justice for all. Our lives matter. And enough is enough. Speakers took turns sharing powerful stories of resilience and resistance, their voices echoing through the crowd. Marcus listened intently, feeling both inspired and humbled. For the first time in years, he felt connected to something bigger than himself, a community fighting for change. As the speeches wrapped up, Marcus wandered toward a group of children standing near the front. They were holding handmade signs that read, "Our future matters," and "We are the change." 4 of them stood together, their faces identical in a way that made Marcus freeze mid-step. He blinked, thinking maybe his eyes were playing tricks on him. But as he moved closer, his heart began to race. These kids, they looked so familiar. Their features, their expressions, even the way they tilted their heads slightly. It was like looking into a mirror. Marcus's mind raced. Who were these children? Why did they resemble him so strongly? His chest tightened as realization dawned on him. Could they be Jasmine's kids? But how? And why hadn't anyone told him? A million questions swirled in his head, each one more overwhelming than the last. He couldn't tear his gaze away from them. They laughed and chatted animatedly, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside him. Summoning his courage, Marcus approached cautiously. One of the volunteers nearby noticed his interest and smiled warmly. "Aren't they amazing?" she said, gesturing toward the children. "They're quadruplets, 6 years old already. Their mom works hard to bring them to events like this. She says it's important for them to learn about justice early." Quadruplets. 6 years old. Marcus felt dizzy, struggling to process what he was hearing. If they were 6 years old, that meant, no, it couldn't be. Could it? His mind flashed back to the night he left Jasmine, the note he wrote, the promises he never kept. Had she been pregnant then? The thought hit him like a punch to the gut. He had missed so much. Birthdays, first steps, bedtime stories, all because he hadn't stayed to find out. For a moment, Marcus considered walking away. This was too much, too fast. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the curiosity gnawing at him, or maybe it was the tiny flicker of hope that refused to die. Whatever it was, Marcus knew he needed answers. Taking a deep breath, he asked the volunteer, "Do you know their last name?" The woman nodded. "Thompson," she replied. "Why?" Marcus's knees nearly buckled. Thompson. That was Jasmine's last name, and his own. There was no denying it now. These children were his kids, his family. The weight of that truth crashed over him like a tidal wave, leaving him speechless. As he stood there staring at the 4 little faces that mirrored his own, Marcus realized his life was about to change forever. The discovery left Marcus reeling. He couldn't stop thinking about the 4 children he had seen at the rally. Their bright eyes, their laughter, the way they looked so much like him. Every time he closed his eyes, their faces appeared in his mind, refusing to let him rest. The realization that they were his kids weighed heavily on him, a mix of shock, guilt, and awe swirling inside. How could he have missed this? How could he not have known? Determined to get answers, Marcus decided to reach out to Jasmine. But how? After all these years, he didn't even know where she lived or how to contact her. Reaching out felt intrusive, almost impossible. Still, Marcus knew he couldn't ignore what he had learned. With some hesitation, he contacted a mutual friend from their past, a cousin Jasmine occasionally kept in touch with. At first, the cousin was reluctant to help. "You left her, Marcus," she said bluntly over the phone. "Do you really think you deserve to waltz back into her life now?" Her words stung, but Marcus didn't argue. He deserved every bit of her anger. Instead, he pleaded, explaining that he hadn't known about the quadruplets until recently. "I just need to know if they're okay," he said softly. "Please." After some deliberation, the cousin agreed to pass along his message to Jasmine. Days passed without a response, and Marcus feared the worst. Maybe Jasmine didn't want anything to do with him. Maybe she hated him too much to even acknowledge his existence. Just as he began to lose hope, his phone buzzed one evening. It was a text from Jasmine. "We need to talk." They met at a quiet cafe near her neighborhood. When Marcus arrived, He spotted Jasmine sitting by the window, sipping tea. She looked older, stronger, more confident than he remembered. Her eyes met his briefly before turning away, and Marcus felt a pang of shame. This wasn't the same woman he had walked out on years ago. She had grown while he had stayed stuck. Jasmine got straight to the point. "Why are you here, Marcus?" she asked, her voice calm but firm. "What do you want?" Marcus swallowed hard, unsure where to begin. "I saw the kids," he admitted finally. "At the rally. I didn't know. I mean, I never imagined." His voice trailed off as emotions choked him up. "Are they mine?" Jasmine studied him for a long moment before nodding. "Yes," she said simply. "They're yours. Amari, Nia, Malik, and Zara. Quadruplets." The confirmation hit Marcus like a freight train. He leaned back in his chair, overwhelmed. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked quietly. "You left," Jasmine replied, her tone sharp but controlled. "You didn't leave a forwarding address, a number, nothing. I tried to move on, Marcus. I had no choice." Her words cut deep, but Marcus knew she was right. He had abandoned her, leaving her to face one of the biggest challenges of her life alone. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want to be part of their lives. If you'll let me." Jasmine hesitated, clearly torn. On one hand, she had raised the quadruplets practically single-handedly, building a stable and loving home for them. Letting Marcus back in felt risky. It might disrupt the balance she had worked so hard to create. On the other hand, the kids deserved to know their father, especially since he seemed genuinely interested now. After a long pause, she sighed. "It's not about me anymore," she said. "It's about them. If you're serious about being involved, we'll take it slow. But don't make promises you can't keep." Marcus nodded eagerly. "I won't," he vowed. "I'll do whatever it takes." As they talked further, Jasmine shared snippets of the quadruplets' lives, how active and curious they were, how much they loved music and art, and how proud she was of the people they were becoming. Listening to her, Marcus felt a mixture of admiration and regret. He had missed so much already, but maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to start making up for lost time. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to feel a flicker of hope. With Jasmine's cautious approval, Marcus began the slow process of rebuilding trust. He knew he couldn't rush things or expect immediate acceptance, not from her and certainly not from the quadruplets. This wasn't going to be easy, but Marcus was determined to prove himself. For the first time in years, he felt like he had a purpose beyond just surviving day by day. Jasmine suggested they start small. Marcus could attend community events where the kids would also be present, giving them a chance to get to know him without pressure. The first event was a local fundraiser hosted by their church, aimed at supporting families affected by systemic inequality. Marcus arrived early, nervous but hopeful. When the quadruplets walked in with Jasmine, his heart skipped a beat. They looked so much like miniature versions of him. Same eyes, same smile. But there was a distance in their gaze that reminded him how much work lay ahead. At first, the children were shy around him. Amari clung to Jasmine's side, while Nia peeked at him curiously from behind her brother. Malik and Zara whispered to each other, giggling whenever Marcus tried to make eye contact. It was clear they didn't know what to make of this stranger who claimed to be their father. Marcus didn't push. Instead, he focused on being present. He helped set up tables, played games with the kids during breaks, and even joined in when they sang songs together. Slowly, the ice began to melt. Over the next few weeks, Marcus made an effort to attend every gathering where the quadruplets would be. He brought snacks they liked, learned their favorite colors, and listened intently as they talked about school, friends, and their dreams for the future. One afternoon, while playing catch with Malik and Amari in the park, Marcus noticed something remarkable. They laughed. Not polite, hesitant laughs, but genuine, carefree ones. It was a small victory, but it meant the world to him. Jasmine watched all of this from a distance, her guard still firmly in place. She appreciated Marcus's efforts but remained wary. Trust wasn't something she handed out easily, especially after everything she'd been through. Still, she couldn't deny the positive changes she saw in the kids. They seemed happier, more curious about their dad, and eager to share pieces of their lives with him. Even so, Jasmine kept reminding herself, and Marcus, that consistency mattered more than grand gestures. Marcus took her advice to heart. He enrolled in parenting workshops specifically designed for fathers raising multiples, wanting to better understand the unique challenges of having quadruplets. He read books about child development, sought advice from counselors, and spent hours researching ways to bond with kids who had grown up without him. At night, he journaled about his progress, noting moments that went well and reflecting on areas where he could improve. One evening, Jasmine invited Marcus to dinner at her house, a big step for both of them. The kids buzzed with excitement as they showed off their drawings and projects from school. Zara proudly held up a painting of a family portrait, pointing out each figure. "That's me, Mommy, Amari, Malik, and Naya," she said cheerfully. Then, hesitating slightly, she added, "And that's you, Daddy." Marcus froze, his throat tightening with emotion. He hadn't expected to hear that word. Daddy. So soon. It felt like a gift, one he didn't deserve but cherish deeply. "Thank you, Zora," he managed to say, his voice thick with gratitude. "I love it." As the meal progressed, Marcus realized how far they had come. The kids weren't fully comfortable yet, but they were opening up in ways he hadn't dared to hope for. Jasmine, too, seemed softer, less guarded than before. Though she still kept him at arm's length emotionally, her willingness to include him in their lives spoke volumes. That night, driving home, Marcus reflected on the journey ahead. Rebuilding trust wouldn't happen overnight. It might take months, even years, but he was committed. Every laugh, every shared moment, every tiny step forward gave him hope. For the first time in a long time, Marcus felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. As Marcus spent more time with the quadruplets, he began to see the world through their eyes, and it opened his own in ways he hadn't expected. One Saturday afternoon, while helping Amari and Malik build a Lego tower, Zara tugged at his sleeve. "Daddy, can we go to the park?" she asked sweetly. Marcus smiled, but before he could answer, Nia chimed in. "We're not allowed to play on the swings there," she said matter-of-factly. Marcus frowned. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" he asked, leaning down to her level. Nia shrugged, glancing at Jasmine, who stood nearby folding laundry. "Some kids say we can't use them because they're for other people," she explained softly. Her tone was casual, as if this were normal, but her words hit Marcus like a punch to the chest. He looked at Jasmine, whose expression hardened slightly. She nodded almost imperceptibly, confirming what the kids had said. That night, unable to sleep, Marcus replayed the conversation in his mind. The realization that his children faced discrimination, even at their young age, left him angry and heartbroken. How many times had they been treated unfairly without him knowing? How often had Jasmine shielded them from pain he hadn't been there to witness? The guilt weighed heavily on him, but it also ignited something else, a fierce determination to protect them and teach them resilience. The next day, Marcus joined Jasmine for coffee. He brought up what the kids had said about the park. Jasmine sighed, setting her mug down. "It's not just the park, Marcus," she said quietly. "They've been called names at school, excluded from games, followed around stores like they don't belong. I try to explain it to them, to prepare them, but it's exhausting." Her voice cracked slightly, and Marcus reached out instinctively, placing a hand over hers. She didn't pull away. From that moment on, Marcus threw himself into understanding the challenges his family faced, not just as individuals, but as part of a broader struggle. He attended workshops and seminars organized by the Black Lives Matter movement, listening intently to stories shared by parents, educators, and activists. He learned about systemic racism, microaggressions, and the importance of representation. Each session deepened his resolve to make a difference, not just for his kids, but for all children growing up in a world that often saw them as less than. Back home, Marcus started having conversations with the quadruplets about identity and pride. At first, they seemed confused. Why do some people treat us differently? Malik asked one evening during dinner. Marcus hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Because the world isn't always fair, he admitted. But that doesn't mean we let it define us. You are strong, smart, and amazing exactly as you are. And together, we'll show people why your voices matter. To reinforce these lessons, Marcus took the kids to rallies, marches, and community events celebrating Black culture and excellence. They danced to live music at Juneteenth festivals, painted murals advocating equality, and cheered alongside thousands of others fighting for justice. With every experience, the quadruplets grew more confident, learning to stand tall despite the obstacles they might face. Jasmine noticed the change too. One evening, after tucking the kids into bed, she found Marcus sitting alone in the living room. "You're good with them," she said simply, perching on the armrest of the couch. Marcus looked up, surprised. "I'm trying," he replied honestly. "They deserve so much more than what I gave them before. They deserve someone who keeps showing up," Jasmine said, her voice softer now. "And you're doing that." Her words stayed with Marcus long after she left. He realized that being present wasn't just about fixing past mistakes. It was about creating a future where his children felt seen, valued, and empowered. Every bedtime story, every pep talk, every moment spent cheering them on was a step toward that goal. For the first time, Marcus understood that redemption wasn't about erasing the past. It was about building something better moving forward. And with each passing day, he felt closer to earning the title of Dad in the truest sense. Marcus's journey of redemption took a new turn when he decided to channel his energy into something bigger than himself. He had seen firsthand how the quadruplets, and countless other Black children, faced discrimination and systemic barriers that no child should ever have to endure. Determined to make a difference, Marcus came up with an idea: a mentorship program for young Black fathers who, like him, might be struggling to stay connected to their kids or navigate the challenges of parenting. With Jasmine's blessing, Marcus partnered with local community leaders and activists to bring the program to life. They called it Roots and Wings, symbolizing the importance of grounding children in love and culture while giving them the freedom to soar. The initiative focused on teaching fathers practical skills, such as managing finances, handling conflict, and understanding the unique needs of raising multiples like the quadruplets. But more importantly, it emphasized emotional support and accountability, creating a safe space where men could share their struggles without judgment. The response was overwhelming. Fathers from all walks of life showed up to meetings, eager to learn and grow. Some were absent dads looking to reconnect with their kids. Others were single fathers juggling work and family responsibilities. Marcus led workshops, drawing from his own experiences to guide them. "I'm not here because I've got everything figured out," he told the group during one session. "I'm here because I know what it feels like to mess up and to want to do better." As the program gained traction, the quadruplets became regular fixtures at its events. Amari, Nia, Malik, and Zara loved being part of the activities, painting murals, planting trees in the community garden, and even helping organize a book drive for underprivileged schools. Seeing their dad stand tall and speak passionately about justice inspired them. At a rally one weekend, they held handmade signs that read, "Daddy stands with us," beaming with pride as strangers stopped to compliment their creativity. Jasmine watched all of this unfold with cautious optimism. She still kept her guard up, knowing how fragile trust could be, but she couldn't deny the positive impact Marcus was having, not just on their family, but on the entire community. Neighbors began approaching her to praise Marcus's efforts. "He's doing good work," one woman said warmly after a neighborhood cleanup event. "You must be proud." Jasmine smiled, nodding slowly. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, Marcus's transformation was real. One evening, after tucking the kids into bed, Marcus sat down with Jasmine to talk. "I've been thinking," he began hesitantly, "about how much I missed when I wasn't around. Not just birthdays or holidays, but the little things like bedtime stories and scraped knees. I'll never get those moments back, but I can make sure other dads don't lose theirs too." Jasmine studied him carefully, searching for sincerity in his words. Finally, she nodded. "You're right," she said softly. "What you're doing matters. For our kids, for these families, for everyone. Just don't stop. Keep showing up." Her encouragement fueled Marcus even more. He expanded Roots and Wings to include resources for mothers and caregivers, recognizing that building strong families required teamwork. Together with Jasmine, he organized parenting panels, financial literacy classes, and mental health workshops, ensuring that every aspect of family life was addressed. The program became a beacon of hope in their community, proving that change was possible when people came together with shared purpose. Through it all, Marcus remained focused on his ultimate goal: breaking cycles of absence and neglect that had plagued generations of Black families. He knew the road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but seeing the smiles on his children's faces and the gratitude in the eyes of the families he helped made every challenge worth it. Redemption, he realized, wasn't about erasing the past. It was about creating a legacy of love, resilience, and action, one that his quadruplets could carry forward long after he was gone. Years passed, and Marcus's life transformed in ways he never thought possible. The man who had once walked away from his family now stood firmly rooted in their lives, a constant presence for the quadruplets and a pillar of strength for his community. Though he could never erase the pain of abandoning Jasmine, he had worked tirelessly to rebuild trust, not just with her, but with himself. Every day was a reminder that redemption wasn't about perfection. It was about showing up, again and again, no matter how hard things got. The quadruplets, Amari, Nia, Malik, and Zara, were growing into remarkable individuals. At 12 years old, they were full of curiosity, humor, and determination. Amari loved science and spent hours tinkering with gadgets in the garage. Nia poured her heart into poetry, often reading her latest pieces at school assemblies. Malik excelled at basketball, leading his team with quiet confidence, while Zara dazzled everyone with her artwork, filling sketchbooks with vibrant drawings inspired by their family's journey. Marcus cherished every moment with them. He cheered from the sidelines during Malik's games, listened intently as Nia recited her poems, helped Amari troubleshoot his inventions, and framed Zora's artwork to display proudly in his apartment. They weren't just father and children anymore. They were teammates, storytellers, and partners in navigating life's ups and downs. Still, Marcus knew he didn't deserve all the credit. It was Jasmine who had raised these incredible kids, instilling in them resilience, kindness, and pride in their identity. Jasmine, too, had softened over time. While she remained fiercely protective of her family, she began to see Marcus not just as the man who had left, but as someone committed to making amends. Their relationship evolved into a partnership built on mutual respect and shared goals. Together, they co-parented seamlessly, attending school meetings, celebrating milestones, and supporting each other through challenges. Though romance wasn't part of the equation, their bond grew stronger, a testament to forgiveness and growth. Meanwhile, Roots and Wings continued to flourish, expanding beyond their city to inspire communities nationwide. Marcus traveled frequently, sharing his story and encouraging others to break cycles of absence and neglect. His message resonated deeply. You don't have to be perfect to be present. Show up, even when it's hard. Your kids will remember the effort, not the mistakes. At home, the quadruplets became ambassadors for the program, speaking at events and mentoring younger children. Watching them advocate for justice and equality filled Marcus with immense pride. They carried themselves with a confidence that came from knowing they were loved. and from seeing their dad fight not only for them, but for countless others like them. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Marcus sat with the kids in the backyard. Fireflies danced around them, casting a soft glow over the grass. Zara leaned against him, holding up a drawing she'd made earlier that day. "It's us," she said, pointing to stick figures holding hands beneath a rainbow. "We're a family now, right?" Marcus smiled, blinking back tears. "Yes, sweetheart," he replied. "We are." In that moment, surrounded by laughter and love, Marcus felt a profound sense of peace. He knew his past would always be part of him, but it no longer defined him. Instead, he chose to focus on the future, a future where Black lives truly mattered, starting with his own. And though the road ahead would undoubtedly hold challenges, Marcus faced it with hope, knowing he had 4 little reminders of why the fight was worth it.